I never thought my best friend would betray me. We had been inseparable since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and even heartbreaks. When I got engaged to Daniel, I believed my happiness was secure. But in a cruel twist of fate, Olivia, my best friend, stole him away. Now, she is marrying the man who once promised to love me forever. But she has a secret, one that she thought would remain buried. As she walks down the aisle in her perfect white dress, she has no idea what is coming. I am here to make sure her wedding day is unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. Betrayal is a wound that never fully heals. It lingers, festering beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to remind you of its existence. I never thought Olivia would be the one to twist the knife in my back. But she did, without hesitation, without remorse. Olivia and I have been best friends since we were kids. We met in second grade, when she moved to my neighborhood. She was shy at first, her big blue eyes always scanning the room cautiously. But I was the one who pulled her into my world. We did everything together, sleepovers, birthday parties, and even family vacations. She was more than a best friend, she was family. As we grew older, our bond only strengthened. I trusted her with everything. I confided in her about my first crush, my first heartbreak, and later, my first love, Daniel. I met Daniel in college, and from the moment I laid eyes on him, I knew he was special. He was charming, intelligent, and kind. We started dating in our junior year, and by the time we graduated, we were inseparable. Olivia was there through it all. She was the one I called after every date, the one who helped me pick out the perfect dress for our anniversary dinners, and the one who stood beside me when Daniel proposed. It happened on a quiet evening, just the two of us under a starlit sky. He got down on one knee, his eyes full of love, and asked me to be his forever. I said yes without hesitation, and for a while life felt perfect. But perfection is an illusion. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. The way Olivia's smile faltered whenever I talked about my wedding plans. The way Daniel's eyes lingered on her a little too long, when he thought I was not looking. The whispered conversations, the sudden distance between me and Olivia. But love makes you blind. I ignored my instincts, convinced myself that everything was fine, until the day it all fell apart. I had been running late from work, when I decided to surprise Daniel with dinner. I bought his favorite takeout, excited to spend a quiet evening together. When I arrived at his apartment, the door was unlocked. I stepped inside, expecting to find him alone. Instead, I found Olivia, wrapped in his arms. The food slipped from my hands, crashing onto the floor as the scent of betrayal filled the air. They turned to me, their faces frozen in shock. Olivia's lips parted, as if she wanted to explain, but no words could undo what had just happened. "I can explain," she finally whispered. But there was nothing to explain. The truth was staring me in the face. Daniel had not just betrayed me, he had chosen her. The man who once promised me forever had thrown it all away for the one person I had trusted most. I walked away that night, leaving behind my dreams, my love, and the illusion that Olivia had ever been my friend. The days that followed were a blur of heartbreak and anger. I cried until there were no tears left. I screamed into my pillow until my throat was raw. And then I did something I never thought I was capable of. I planned my revenge. Olivia had taken everything from me, but she had forgotten one thing. She had a secret, one that she thought would never see the light of day. A secret I had kept for her for years. And now, on the eve of her wedding, I was ready to expose it. I stood outside the grand wedding venue, watching as guests arrived, dressed in their finest. Laughter and joy filled the air. But beneath it all, there was a storm brewing. I adjusted the small envelope in my hand, the one that held the truth, the one that would turn Olivia's perfect day into a nightmare. She had stolen my fiancé. Now, I was about to steal her happily ever after. The wedding venue was decorated to perfection. White roses lined the grand entrance, golden chandeliers illuminated the ballroom, and soft music floated through the air. Every detail screamed elegance, luxury, and love. But beneath the beauty of it all, a storm was waiting to strike. I stood at the back of the hall, blending into the crowd as I clutched the small envelope in my hand. My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to let my nerves shake me. Olivia had taken everything from me, and tonight, I would take something from her. I watched as guests greeted one another, their laughter and excitement filling the air. Among them, Daniel stood at the front, adjusting his cufflinks, his expression calm, as if he had not shattered my world just months ago. My stomach twisted at the sight of him. I had loved him once, deeply foolishly, but now, all I saw was a man who had betrayed me without a second thought. And then she appeared. Olivia walked through the entrance, draped in a breathtaking white gown that shimmered under the lights. Her blonde hair was styled in perfect curls, and her lips curved into a soft smile as she greeted guests. To everyone in the room, she was a vision of beauty and grace. But I knew the truth. I took a deep breath and moved toward the front, slipping between guests unnoticed. The ceremony was about to begin. The officiant stood at the altar. Daniel took his place beside him, and Olivia gracefully made her way down the aisle, her eyes locked onto the man she had stolen. The moment she reached Daniel, the officiant began speaking, his voice warm and steady. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Olivia and Daniel." I barely listened. My fingers traced the edge of the envelope in my hand, my mind racing with the moment I had been waiting for. I thought back to the day Olivia had confessed her secret to me, the one she had sworn never to speak of again. It had been years ago, on a night when she was drowning in guilt and desperation. We had been in my apartment drinking wine, when she broke down in tears. "I did something terrible," she had whispered, her hands trembling. I had reassured her, told her that whatever it was, I would be there for her. And then she told me, a crime, a betrayal, a secret that, if revealed, could ruin her entire life. Back then, I had promised to keep it. But that promise had died the moment she stole my fiancé. The officiant's voice brought me back to the present. "If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence filled the room. I stepped forward. "I do," I said, my voice clear and unwavering. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Olivia's head snapped in my direction, her eyes wide with shock. Daniel stiffened beside her, his jaw tightening. The officiant hesitated. "Miss, this is highly. I have something to say." I lifted the envelope. "And I think Olivia knows exactly what it is." The color drained from her face. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. I stepped closer, holding her gaze. "I trusted you, Olivia. I gave you everything. And in return, you took the one person I loved. But you forgot something. You have skeletons in your closet, and I am done keeping them hidden." Daniel turned to Olivia, his confusion evident. "What is she talking about?" Olivia's lips parted, but no words came out. Her hands trembled as she reached for me, as if she could stop what was about to happen. But it was too late. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the evidence of the secret Olivia had kept buried for years. I held it up for the crowd to see. "This," I said, my voice firm, "is the truth about Olivia." The entire room fell silent, all eyes locked onto us. The perfect wedding, the perfect moment shattered in an instant. Olivia's past was about to be exposed, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. The silence in the room was suffocating. All eyes were on me, the envelope in my hand holding the power to destroy Olivia's perfect wedding. My pulse pounded in my ears as I unfolded the paper, savoring the fear in her wide, desperate eyes. She knew what was coming. Daniel turned to Olivia, confusion darkening his face. "What is she talking about?" His voice was sharp, demanding. Olivia shook her head frantically. "Do not listen to her. She is just trying to ruin this day out of spite." I let out a dry laugh. "Spite? You think this is about revenge?" I took a step closer, my voice unwavering. "You betrayed me, Olivia. You took everything from me. But you forgot that I know who you really are." She clenched her fists, trying to maintain her composure. "You do not have anything." I smirked. "Oh, but I do." I turned to the guests, my voice steady and clear. "Olivia has been hiding something for years. Something she thought no one would ever find out. But she was wrong." I lifted the paper. "This is proof that Olivia—" I paused, letting the suspense settle over the crowd. "Committed identity fraud." A collective gasp spread through the guests. Murmurs and whispers filled the air. Olivia's face drained of color as she staggered back, shaking her head violently. "This is a lie," she shrieked. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What?" I turned to him, my expression serious. "Your beloved fiancé is not who she says she is, Daniel. The name Olivia Parker? It is fake. She changed her identity years ago to escape her past." The room buzzed with shock. Olivia's parents looked at her in horror. Some guests gasped audibly. Others exchanged bewildered glances. Daniel's face hardened. "Is this true?" "No," Olivia cried. "She is lying. She just wants to ruin my wedding." I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. "Then explain this." I turned my phone around, displaying an official record. An old newspaper article with a headline that read, "Local woman wanted for credit card fraud and identity theft." Beneath it was a mugshot. The face was younger, but unmistakably Olivia's. Daniel stumbled back, as if he had been punched. "Oh my God!" The guests erupted into whispers, some of them pulling out their phones to search for the article themselves. Olivia's mother gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. "Olivia," Daniel whispered, his voice laced with disbelief. "Is this real?" Tears welled in her eyes. Daniel, I can explain." But there was no explaining her way out of this. I stepped forward, lowering my voice just enough for only her to hear. "You told me everything that night, remember? You maxed out credit cards in someone else's name. You ran away and started fresh. You thought you buried it so deep that no one would ever find out. But you were wrong." She stared at me, tears spilling down her face, her lips trembling. I straightened, my voice cutting through the chaos. "You built your whole life on lies, Olivia. And now, they are finally catching up to you." A security guard stepped forward, alerted by the disturbance. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel turned to him, his voice cold and sharp. "Yes. I want her out of here." Olivia gasped. "Daniel, no, please." He shook his head, his eyes filled with disgust. "I do not even know who you are." Her shoulders shook as she turned to the crowd, searching for someone to take her side. But no one moved. The perfect wedding, the perfect life she had stolen, it was slipping away, right in front of her. And I had made sure of it. The guards approached her. She let out a sob, but no one stopped them. As they escorted her out, I met her gaze one last time. "You should have never betrayed me, Olivia." She did not have a response. She just disappeared through the doors, her sobs echoing down the hall. The wedding was over. And so was Olivia's carefully crafted lie. The grand ballroom, once filled with joy and anticipation, now simmered with unease. Guests murmured amongst themselves, some hurriedly checking their phones for more details on Olivia's secret past. Others exchanged hushed whispers, their eyes darting toward the exit where Olivia had just been escorted out. Daniel stood frozen at the altar, his hands clenched into fists. His face was pale, his jaw tight, his entire world unraveling before him. The love of his life, the woman he had planned to marry, was a liar, a fraud. Slowly I exhaled. I had done what I came to do. The truth was out. Olivia's perfect life had crumbled, and she had no one to blame but herself. The officiant, clearly unsure of what to do, hesitated before clearing his throat. Well, given the circumstances, I believe the ceremony is postponed?" No one answered him. Daniel turned to me, his expression unreadable. "How long have you known?" I met his gaze without hesitation. "For years." He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "And you never told me?" My chest tightened. She was my best friend. She made me promise to keep her secret. And back then, I thought she deserved a second chance. But after what she did to me, after what you did to me, I realized that some people do not change. His face contorted with regret, but I was not here for his apologies. He took a step closer. "I made a mistake." A cold, humorless smile crossed my lips. "Which one?" His brows furrowed. "What?" I lifted my chin. "Cheating on me? Lying to yourself? Falling for someone who was never who she pretended to be?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, frustration flickering in his eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." I laughed, sharp, bitter. "You did not just hurt me, Daniel. You betrayed me. And for what? A woman who was lying to you from the start." He flinched. I could see the guilt, the self-loathing creeping in. But it was not my job to ease his conscience. I took a step back. "You two deserve each other." The murmurs of the guests grew louder as Daniel stood there, staring at the remnants of his shattered future. Then, without another word, I turned and walked away. Outside, the cool evening air hit my skin, clearing the tension from my mind. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment. It was over. The pain, the anger, the betrayal. It was all behind me now. I had spent months feeling broken, haunted by what Olivia and Daniel had done to me. But now, standing outside the ruins of their failed wedding, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Relief. Freedom. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. A flood of missed messages from friends, from people who had been at the wedding, from those who had just heard the news. But one name stood out among them all, Ethan. I hesitated before opening the message. Ethan, I heard what happened. Are you okay? Ethan had been my closest confidant over the last few months. He had been there through the heartbreak, through the sleepless nights. He had told me I was stronger than I thought. And maybe he was right. I typed back. Me, I am more than okay. A moment later, his response popped up. Ethan, good. Because I have been waiting for you to see that for yourself. A small smile crept onto my lips. Tonight I had closed one chapter of my life. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to start a new one. The night air was crisp, carrying the distant sounds of the city beyond the wedding venue. The chaos inside had faded behind me, left in the past where it belonged. I walked down the long stone path leading to the parking lot, my heels clicking against the pavement. With each step, the weight on my shoulders felt lighter. For the first time in months, I felt free. I reached my car and leaned against the door, inhaling deeply. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Ethan. I smiled softly before picking up the call. Hey, I answered, my voice steady. You really did it, Ethan said, his tone laced with admiration. I half expected you to back out at the last second. So did I admitted with a chuckle. But it was time. A pause. Then, how do you feel? I looked up at the sky, the stars twinkling like tiny beacons in the dark expanse. Like I can finally breathe. Ethan exhaled in relief. Good. Because you deserve that. I had spent so long believing I was the one who had lost everything. That I was the victim of Olivia and Daniel's betrayal. But standing here now, knowing their so-called love was built on lies, I realized I had not lost. They had. Olivia had lost her carefully constructed fantasy of a perfect life. Daniel had lost the illusion of the woman he thought he loved. And me, I had lost the chains that had kept me bound to them. I glanced back at the grand wedding hall one last time. Inside, the guests were probably still reeling from the scandal. The perfect day had crumbled. A poetic kind of justice. You know, Ethan said, breaking the silence. This is the part where the hero rides off into the sunset. I laughed. And what about the part where she starts fresh? That, he said, is the best part. His words settled over me like warmth on a cold night. Maybe it was time. Time to stop dwelling on the past. Time to stop letting the betrayal define me. Time to step into something new, something better. Meet me for coffee tomorrow? Ethan asked, his voice softer now. I smiled. I would like that. A fresh start. A new beginning. I slid into my car, started the engine, and drove away from the wreckage of my past, without looking back. As I drove through the quiet city streets, I let my mind wander. I thought about all the moments that had led me to this night. The years of friendship with Olivia, the love I had once believed in with Daniel, the slow unraveling of trust, and the sharp sting of betrayal. But now, all of it felt like another lifetime, like a story that had finally reached its conclusion. The soft hum of the engine, and the distant streetlights passing by gave me a sense of peace I had not felt in so long. I had spent months mourning something that was never real. Olivia and Daniel had built a foundation on deception. And no matter how much they tried to paint over the cracks, the truth had found a way to seep through. My thoughts drifted to Ethan. He had been my anchor through this storm, offering support when I felt like I had lost everything. He had reminded me of my worth when I had doubted myself the most. I wondered what tomorrow would bring. Would coffee just be coffee? Or was this the beginning of something new? I turned onto my street, pulling into the driveway of my apartment complex. As I stepped out of the car, I felt a cool breeze wrap around me. It was almost poetic, like the universe whispering that a new chapter had begun. Inside, I kicked off my heels and sank onto my couch, letting out a deep breath. I glanced at my phone, seeing missed messages from people who had been at the wedding. Some were shocked, others curious. I ignored them all. I had said everything I needed to say. The rest was not my burden to carry anymore. For the first time in a long while, I felt excitement for the future rather than fear. I had been so consumed by what was taken from me that I had forgotten I had the power to rebuild, on my own terms, with my own happiness in mind. As I closed my eyes, I smiled to myself. Tomorrow was a new day, full of possibilities. And for once I was ready to embrace it.